everybody.
Good
Hey,
morning.
hey, Wanda,
Hey,
you have your mute on, I think, don't you?
no,
No? Okay, hold on. Let me turn my volume up.
I may have to jump off and on because I got my MAPS coaching coming up in a little bit, but
Okay, all right. Okay, and good morning or afternoon, Pam. You're back.
Yes, sorry. I came back
Okay.
to,
Did you try and go in at all?
yes, I did.
And you still need some help?
I just want to, I understand it's such a good class. I want to hear it again. Do you mind?
No, not at all.
And besides that, I never get to see your face anymore unless I go on this meeting.
Okay.
so Brad, don't forget I may have to jump off and on because I got a coaching call with Mika, MAPS coaching.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Peggy, is that Peggy Mullen? Brenda.
Excuse my eating.
All right. Hey, Wanda.
Yes.
Are you using this at all?
What, the command?
The DocuSign part of command?
So no, not through command. I've always used DocuSign. So I'm trying to figure out where it is in command. So,
Okay.
uh-oh, there go coach. Okay, I'm gonna have to mute. Hold on, Mika.
Hey, Wendy, how are you? You're on mute. There you are.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Hanging in.
Good. What? Where are you with this process? Have you tried this? Have you been playing around with it?
Little bit, yeah.
Okay. Are you getting stuck, or are you just what's going on with you?
No real problems. It seems kind of to be doing okay.
All right. And you have a copy of the PowerPoint,
Of which one?
the command DocuSign PowerPoint?
No.
Okay. I'll send one to you. It's
Great.
every screen that we do today
Uh-huh.
is what the PowerPoint is. It's step by step.
Great.
You can't go wrong.
Thank you.
Okay. Hey, Ellie, how are you? You're on mute. You're on, there you are.
There we go.
Good. How are you?
Okay.
All right. What are,
I'm here to sneeze. I'm here for a refresher. It's not working well enough for me, so I figured I needed more training.
okay. Have you,
I would like to just deal with DocuSign without going through command.
well, we're not teaching it that way.
Okay, and
And-
then I just had to upload into command all the documents to submit it to the Market Center.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Well, if you've taken these classes, and you should see when you start out, it's only 2 or 3 screens in command, and then you go right to DocuSign.
Understood. And then when you're in the middle of negotiating and you got to get to DocuSign, you got to drill down through several pages to get there.
No, not really. You go.
Okay.
All right. Up. All right. We are just rewriting the PowerPoint and adding all those new sections that it should be done this week, which will help you. But I will. I'll kind of show you where you go if I can, without interrupting the flow of the rest of it. So kind of.
And then finding the right documents presents a problem for me too. I'm not finding them in the packets.
The forms.
Yes.
Well, the forms are in the packets are only the forms to do a listing or a sale today. Anything else that you would need after today, after you got the listing or got the sale ratified, then you have to go into the all documents or all listing documents or all sale documents.
Okay. And
So
I
it's
was
not in a
recently
packet.
I was recently looking for the COVID documents for buyers. And I had to find it in another place. It was not on DocuSign.
Right, because it's not in there.
And why not?
Because it takes DocuSign a week to 2 weeks to upload forms.
Well, we've been quarantined for 60 days.
Well, the forms didn't come out until later on, and that's an MCA problem. So an
Okay.
MCA issue. So,
Okay.
okay. And I think the forms are in the all listing or all sales forms. They're just not in the packets.
Okay.
So, okay. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off the screen. We're going to go actually from the beginning to the end of how you do a transaction, how you submit it for compliance, and how you submit it for offers and commissions. So give me a second so I can get the screens up. Okay, everybody see the Zoom screen? Everybody see my Zoom screen?
Yes.
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 Okay, where you start this whole process is in your address line. You would type in agent.kw.com/command. Once you have that entered, you can save it. I have it saved on my favorites bar, so I just click on it. All right, and it takes you to the login screen, which is your KW credentials. You just click on it, and you come up to the first, and we're in command. You come up to the first, I'm going to call these dashboards. There are a number of things that you can do on these screens. I would suggest when you got some time, you take a look at them. But where we want to go is all of these icons that are down the left-hand side of the screen. If you hover over them, they'll pop up what the name of it is. But if you click on the KW, it will bring out the list so you can see what all the names are. So in order to do a transaction in Command and DocuSign, you have got to have the contact entered into the Contacts tab. Now let's just say that somebody called you today, you went out and showed property, and they came back and they want to write an offer. So you probably hadn't met them before, let's say, and you don't have the information in your contacts. So what you need to do is put in a name and an email address. That's the only two things that you need to start the transaction. So what we'll do is we'll click on Contacts. Your Contacts dashboard will come up, and what we want to do on the right-hand side is add a contact. Okay, so what we want to do, I lost my contact sheet. Okay, all we need is the name of the buyer. So we're gonna say we're doing Mickey Mouse today, and his email address is Brad. Okay. That's the only two things that you need on this screen to start the opportunity or the transaction. There's a whole lot of other things in here. If you click on this additional add more information, there are more tabs that open. When you have the time, it's probably a good opportunity to go in and enter as much information as you can. But for today, all we need is the name and an email address. Okay. At the bottom of the screen is Create. So you would just hit Create. and Mickey Mouse then appears on your dashboard. I want to add another contact, and I'm going to add Minnie Mouse, and she's going to be at, okay, so that's the only two things that we need to have. All right. Now, if your contact doesn't immediately show up, just hit the reload or refresh button. And both of your contacts should show on your dashboard screen. All right. So that's the only thing to start the transaction. So if we click on the icons names again, where we need to go is what's called opportunities. And this is where you do a listing or a sale. So again, we just click on opportunities. You get another, what I'm calling a dashboard. This is where you will work the client through the different phases, depending on what you call them in the beginning, whether they're to cultivate them, or whether they're an appointment, or they're an active listing or an active buyer, then under contract and closed. So this is just a timeline of moving your clients through. So to start a opportunity, the create opportunity button in the top right-hand side, you click on that and the screen comes up. This is part of the autofill screen because we're in command and we have to name the opportunity. So any heading that has a red asterisk after it is a required field. Delaware Beaches is the market center. Even though that's not our broker name, that's the name we've been given for the market center with command. If you belong to more than one market center, there's a drop-down menu and it would have the market centers that you belong to. You'd have, depending on which documents you want, that would be the market center you'd have to click on. The opportunity type, it's a pull-down menu. Listings is for listings. They changed the wording a little bit. We normally would say a sale, but here they call it a buyer. And then you have the landlord and the tenant information. So we're going to do a sale today, working with a buyer. Now the owner. The owner is always you. You are the owner of this opportunity. It doesn't mean the owner of a property or the property that the clients are trying to buy or sell. So you're already going to probably be populated in that. Now, client, and this is the reason why you needed to enter a contact in the contacts tab, because if I started typing in Donald Duck, it tells me that there are no options. That means that there was no contact information. So therefore, you couldn't do this opportunity because you don't have a client in there. So when you start typing in Mickey, the name pops up, you just add it in. Same thing with the second buyer. Just click it, add it in. Now the opportunity name, this is required. What it does is it just takes the first person's name, hyphenates it, and gives it the title buyer because you're doing a buyer opportunity. What we want you to do for admin is take that out, and similar to dot loop, we wanted you to name this opportunity the street number, street name, city, state, and zip. So I've got some already in here. If you start typing, the 911 address or the GPS address pops up. So when you get to it, just add it in. Now the rest of these fields are not required except commission rate. And this is the commission on this side of the transaction only, not on the total transaction. The last two boxes down here, the opportunity phase and the stage. This is what's over in your timeline. You can change it to whatever you want so long as something is in here and they automatically put cultivate and watch. So for today, I'm just going to leave it. We're going to create the opportunity.
Can I ask you a question, Brad, on the commission?
Sure.
What if you're doing both sides? You still just put the buyer side in that field?
Yep, because you've got to have two opportunities. You can't do you can't do both sides in one opportunity. You have to have one for the listing and one for the sale.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So now we are in the first details page and we're still in command. So on this screen, there's one section that is a must that you must fill in, and it's this property information right here. The fields are all blank, so in order to make them fillable, there's a pencil in the top right-hand corner of the box. You just click on that, and the fields become active. So the country is the US. The location, again, you start typing the name of the street, and it should come up. And it does populate the town, city, state, and also puts in the county. That's all that's required here. So you just hit save and the information is in here. If there were anything under general information that you would want to put in at this point or anything that you would want to change, again, click the pencil. You've got to change something if you click the pencil, or you've got to add something before you can get out of it again. So there's nothing that we need to change. This is enough information for right now. All right. So following along, we're now going to go to where you add the documents to the transaction. Similar to dot loop, where you pull down the menu, we're going to do the same thing here. So we've now gone, we're still in command, but we're leaving it by starting a transaction on the right-hand side. Before I go, though, try and remember this screen when we come back to the end of the presentation, where it has under contract and closed, and there are this center of the screen is blank. This is where you do your compliance for submitting to the market center. So we'll see how the documents show up and what we do to compliance when we get there. So we want to start a transaction. We want to start it in DocuSign. And what it's going to ask us to log into our DocuSign account that we.
Hey, Brad.
Yep.
How did you get there? I missed it. How did you get to the DocuSign screen? I'm sorry. If you can go back or not. Somehow I missed that.
All right. No, I can't go back. Okay.
No. You were there.
I was there. Okay. What you have right here is start a transaction instead of go to transaction. So when you clicked on that, the drop-down menu would say DocuSign or .loop.
Oh, okay. I think it's behind our faces. That's how I didn't see it.
Okay.
That's what happened.
You can minimize the faces up in the top left-hand corner.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So now what we're doing is we're switching from command to DocuSign. So we want to log into DocuSign.
Now, Brad, did we get an actual login, or is it for our DocuSign?
You should have set up your DocuSign account.
Okay, I already have one, so I got to see how that's going to work for me. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So now what we've done is we have gone from command, we're now in DocuSign. All right. It has the documents tab underlined, but what we want to do is we want to go back to the details tab. If you remember in .loop, we had the details tab where that was the button that you filled in all the information about the details of the transaction, and this is what auto-filled. So we want to go back to details. Again, all the screens are not editable at this point, but the pencil with the edit button, if you click on that, it makes all the fields now fillable. What I would suggest you do is start with the right-hand side, because this is a column of people, and it's quite long if you've got everybody that you're filling in information about. So what it starts with is seller one. Because we're only dealing with the buyer, I normally don't fill in any of the seller information. I leave that up to the listing agent. So here's the information about seller one. Then it goes to seller two. Then it goes to listing agent one, and you can put that information in if you so desire. It has a listing agent two if there were two of them. And then finally we come to buyer one. So buyer one, it brought over the name and the email address because that was what we had filled in. Now, the rest of these fields, phone numbers and information about the company where the buyer works, up to you whether you want to fill that in or not. What I like to think is think of the forms that this information is going to go on. I don't think there's too many of our forms, if any, that you would ever put a phone number in. So, you know, whether you want to eliminate these when you're trying to put the transaction together, that's going to be up to you. So it does want the address of the property that they live at. Country and state are not required, but if you want to put a state in, you've got to put the country in first. And they're just drop-down menus, and the zip code came over. Buyer two, same information, address, country, state, and zip. Okay, then it goes to the buyer agent, which that's going to be me.
Should that be the address of the property being bought or the home address of the buyer?
Home address of the buyer.
Okay.
Is that supposed to automatically populate your buyer and stuff like that? Because mine doesn't populate.
Yes, it should. Or it has been recently.
Yeah.
All right. Keller Williams came over. The address came over, but the city didn't. So you need to put that in. Country, state, and the zip code. All right. Now, if there was a second buyer's agent, you could put that information in also. All right. Now, you're at the bottom of the page, but over in the middle, you've lost all that other information that was there. So make sure that you pull this screen all the way up to the top so that you're up at where you can see the DocuSign rooms and the address of the property. Okay, now on the left-hand side, you're going to see titles and headings that are going to be things that you might not recognize by the words that they're using. And it's also some of the things that we don't normally use. Like the very first ones, there's a drop-down menu for local currency. And you can see who is using this program. So if you're not sure or don't understand what some of these titles are, I wouldn't worry about them. You know, we're not going to be putting US dollars anywhere on any of our forms. So, you know, up to you whether you want to deal with all of these fields or not. Okay, the address is required. Now, be careful on my laptop in the county, and I did this with a saved address that I have. It always brings up Delaware County instead of Sussex County. So you've got to make sure on some of these autofills that they are correct. All right, if you wanted to put in type of home, it's, you know, there are pull down menus, year built, you can put anything in. Now, here again, you know, some of these are going to apply at this point. Some of them you're not going to know. So the offer date is going to be today. The contract amount is going to be 300,000. Now on this screen, it doesn't take the comma between at the beginning. So be careful on throwing in zeros. Without that comma in there, it's kind of hard to see with all these zeros. So just be careful. Earnest money deposit, we're going to do 5,000. And again, it doesn't take commas, but it takes the period and the cents.
Brad, this is Ellie.
Yep.
We've got Munchie Court as the,
I'm just using that just for convenience.
okay, but it's the buyer's address and then it's the address of the property they're buying.
Yeah, it's not going to
Okay.
matter.
Okay, okay.
It's not going to matter. It's just I'm doing it.
The buyer's address only goes in under the buyer information on the right-hand column, and then the address that they're buying is the
Right.
screen you just filled out.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Some of these things are not even applicable at this point. High bid confirmation. This section is if you're doing REO properties, and there is information that's specific to those transactions. Closing details, you know, you can see probably none of these are going to apply at this point. Additional information. The buyer side commission, even though we put it in command, it didn't come over into DocuSign. You see after it has a percentage. If you're an agent that does, say, mobile homes and you do flat fees, you can't put a flat fee in here. It has to be a percentage. Suggestion is to just figure what that flat fee is based on that list price and put the percent in. It will take, you know, 3.25% or 3.5%. So, you know, you can put in the closest that you can get. If there were referrals, you can put that in. If you want to put in the property details down here, you can put that in. As you see, none of these fields are required. So it's just for information. Okay, so we've exhausted the center portion. All you need to do is at the bottom in the blue button is hit save. It's going to tell you that the room is being updated. Make sure to pull your screen all the way up to the top. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to work across some of the top of these headings. So now we're going to go to documents, and this is where we're actually going to add the documents that we want for this transaction. So again, the plus add button, and we want to do this from DocuSign Forms. All right, now this is the library, and if you were to click down on the library, you're going to see the DocuSign Forms library and the DocuSign Forms group. The library is all of the forms. In the group, what we've done is we've created packets just like in .loop. So we want you to use the forms group. So you would just click on that. And then when you go to select the group, here are all of the packets for each type of transaction that you would do. Somebody asked earlier, I think Ellie, about all listing forms and all sales documents. This was where you would find the forms that are not in these packets. And what's in the packets are only what you need to do the sale to get the transaction started today. So we're going to do a residential packet. All you find in here are these 8 forms. You're not going to find anything that would normally take place during the transaction. There's no addendas for home inspection repairs. There's no request for escrow. There's none of that information. It's only what you need to do the sale today. So you can either select all, but I would suggest not doing that because there are some forms in here that you're not going to use with every single transaction. We know we're going to have the agreement of sale. Let's say we just met these people, so we want to do a buyer agency agreement. The CIS we're going to need. Now, you can't tell from the heading of this, but the radon rights and risks, this is not the addendum. This is the printed one page that explains what radon is. And the reason that it's here is there were agents that said that they included this in their packets when they get buyers' initials and signatures because they have the buyers initial this. So if you're an agent that does not use this to get an initial from the buyer, then you won't check this. The same with the escalation clause addendum. You may be using that right in the beginning. You may know that up front. If you don't need it, you're not going to check it. We're going to do the ABA. The appraisal contingency. If you're going to submit an offer with this addendum, that's why it's here, because you would be doing that right up front. The additional commission. And the other one, and this is a relatively new disclosure, this is the sight unseen that, and you probably wouldn't necessarily have that in making the offer, but you might. This is the hold harmless clause. So once you've picked all your forms, it says how many you've got. You just hit add. And it's now going to put an envelope with each one of the forms marked as a form. And again, the title is here. All right, so what we've added is we've added the state forms. And we've added some of the local KW, and that's what the difference, the DAR compared to the KW 785. The DAR forms are the state forms. These KW 785s are our local forms, or what forms we use in KW only. So, okay, now doing a sale, you know that you need to include the seller's disclosure, the radon, the lead, any other forms that would be in bright in the uploaded document. So the way you would do those forms is the same way as you do them now. You would go into bright, you would open up each document individually, you would save it to your documents, and then you're going to go to the plus add button, but instead of going to DocuSign Forms, you're going to go to your computer. And this is where, when I went into Bright, this is where it stores whatever I save, and I've got a seller's disclosure saved here. You just click on it, open it, and what it does is it adds it at the end of your documents. Now you'll notice it's a PDF, so we're not going to be able to do anything with that in the Documents tab because that's already been done by the seller. The second part of working in the Documents tab is filling out all of the information just like you would have in .loop. So what you do is you just start clicking on the individual forms All right, and you'll see that some of the information auto-filled for you. Um, Again, the purchase price doesn't have the comma. If you want to put it in, this is where you can do that. Okay. The earnest money deposit. We're going to say that the buyers were here, they left, they went home, and they didn't leave a check. There's a glitch in where this populates. So if you go to the last page of the agreement of sale, this is where it puts in the deposit. So you've got to delete the deposit amount out of here because you don't have a deposit. And then go back up to page 1 and you know, you can start filling in the rest of the information. Okay. Just as an observance, these round circles are radio buttons. They're all working throughout all the forms. What you'll see is where the other radio button is, it looks like it's hidden by the box. But as soon as you hover over it, the radio button pops up to the top. So, you know, there's no reason why you can't check whatever you need to check or include. All right. Now, something that we found is in the sellers, in the inclusions, exclusions. If you're going down the list and you would go over this with the buyer, you'd also look at the seller's disclosure to see, you know, what's included or what the buyers want. If, for instance, and let's say the trash compactor, we hit that it was included, but it's a mistake. There is no trash compactor. We know it. There's no way to delete the yes except by clicking the no. So if you only do the yeses on the ones that are included and you don't bother with the no's because it says up here that they're excluded anyway, if you enter something by mistake, then you're going to have a no column check only on this form. So that's just a minor thing on this particular form. Okay, I'm not going to go through the form. You all know how to figure that or fill that out. In the back part, in the information part, it didn't have my license number because that wasn't anywhere that I put it, and the address of the office didn't come over. So there's a few things that you need to fill in, even though it should have auto-populated, and we're working on getting some of these changes fixed. So hopefully by June 15th, this will all be working. Okay, so once you're done with a form, you just hit save and close. It takes you back to your documents and all the individual envelopes. So you would just go through each document, opening, typing, saving it, and until you're finished. So let's assume we have got it all done. Everything is right that we know of. Now we want to get ready to send this to the buyers. So we go to the envelopes tab. And again, the plus new, we want to open a new envelope and a screen comes up with several things on it. So you can name the envelope anything you want. It doesn't make any difference what you call it. Now the add documents to the envelope. The room documents button is highlighted. So when you click on this, a screen should come up with the documents that are in your envelope. So what we do is we just click on each one of the documents. Now, for instance, let's say you might have already been working with these buyers and you already had done a buyer agency agreement. You wouldn't necessarily want to send that one over maybe the second time, so you just can unclick it. Okay, so we've got our documents. We hit add selected. The same kind of screen shows up with an envelope for each document. Okay. The next section is you want to add the recipients. Who is going to be dealing with these documents? Who's going to have to do signatures, initials? So if you click on the add recipient button, provided you did the details tab in the very beginning, where you want to go is to pre-tagged roles. If you use pre-tagged roles, you will not have to assign any initials or signatures on any of your documents. So if you click on pre-tagged roles, these are the people in the transaction that should have been in there or could have been in there. So what you want to do is match up each buyer or each person with their email address. So buyer 1 was Mickey Mouse with that email address. Buyer 2 was Minnie with that email address. And even though it has buyer agency or buyer agent here, the way DocuSign did these forms is we are considered licensees. So you've got to not use the buyer agency tab and use the licensee tab. So the licensee was me. Okay. So those are the only 3 people that we're going to send documents to at this point.
No, Brad, can I ask you a question on that?
Yep.
On forms that aren't, like the DAR forms that aren't filled out, so when we just put in a seller's disclosure, that won't automatically populate those until we put them on the documents, correct? The signatures.
That's the next step after we do this.
Well, I was just curious. You can't do that ahead of time. You have to do that after you do this.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's a PDF, so
Right.
that's why you can't edit until you get to the next step.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, so we've got the people in. We just hit add selected, and what you get is a individual box for each one of the people that are going to be signing. What these 8 dots are, if you hover over it, you can move them. You can change the order that they were originally put in. What you have on the left-hand side are 3 boxes, or a box beside each one with the number 1 in it. What this means is this is the signing order. In DocuSign, and what we're suggesting that you do is you send the documents to the person if they have to fill out any information, like, on the radon, they've got to answer those 3 questions. If there was some other form that the buyer has to fill out information on, you would want the first person to be the most tech savvy, able to work through a document and, work through on their device. So, and the big one is if you're doing a listing with the seller's disclosure, one of your sellers or a seller is going to have to fill out that form unless you do it in advance. So, all 120 questions with all the blanks on that form are going to have to be done. So what you can do is you can actually set the signing order. You can say that buyer 1 will be the first one to get the document, sign them and return them. Then they will go to buyer 2 and they will only see what they have to sign. They won't see anything else that buyer 1 did. And then of course the licensee, we don't have a lot to sign on many of these forms, so we're usually last. What I would suggest is start changing the order from the bottom up, because if I put a 2 here, I'm going to jump up into the second place because it's got a number 1 here. And if you've got a lot of people in here, this screen's just going to be jumping all over the place, and it kind of little nervy to make sure you got it in the right order. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm going to be 3, buyer 2 is going to be 2, and we're leaving buyer 1 as 1. So now we have the order that we want the people to receive the documents. the need to sign, that's the reason that we're doing this. DocuSign is only used for electronic signatures. So if you pull the menu down, here's the permissions. So, you know, probably it's defaulted to needs to sign because that's what we're doing. So, you know, but depends on what you need to be doing later in the transaction, you may need to change that. So, all right, we've got our recipients in. Just like in .loop, we're going to be sending them an email. So, you know, sales docs, and the message is, you know, do not sign until we talk. Whatever you need to put in there to send them a message. Okay, so we've got everybody in, we've got it all filled out. Our forms are all here, we're ready to go. Normally we would go to save and close, but if you notice, it's not necessarily a highlighted box. So the yellow box is the one that's highlighted, and this is the second step of doing the envelope. So we're ready to hit next. All right, now what comes up is a linear one form right after the other in this screen, and this is for you to review it. And remember when we were adding the recipients, I said use pre-tagged roles. The reason that we said that is over here where you would, if you remember in .loop, you'd have to assign the role and the person. It's already been done for you. So you won't have to go in and do any of that editing on any of the forms. And what you can do is up here on the left-hand side where it has Mickey, it's a pull-down menu. Here's the 3 people that are going to be signing forms. Mickey is going to be all in yellow. Minnie's going to be in blue, and I'm going to be in purple. So all the way through these documents, all of these have been pre-formatted for you that you don't have to do anything with it. So on the agreement of sale, everything is done. If you want to go to a specific page, over here on the right is a pull down, and it just shows each document individually. So if you wanted to, you know, find a specific page, you just click on it and you go to it. All right, here's where the signatures have already been added, and also the date signed. So there's nothing that has to be done on this form. On the CIS, there's nothing that needs to be done. What DocuSign did is they allowed the buyers to sign either one of these choices. You know, we don't want anything in either one of these places. So if you wanted to take these out, all you'd have to do is right click and cut, and it would delete the initial boxes in this section. Now, I guess it's just for the look of the forms, there's a minor glitch. The date signature that DocuSign uses is quite long. So when this date goes in here, the whole thing is going to end up about over here. So what it's going to do is it's going to override the signature that's here. And also on some of these that are close to the edge of the paper, it's going to go off the paper. So what I would suggest you do is where these are close together, just left click on this date sign and drag it and reposition it somewhere where you think you're going to have enough room. It could have been there. I did it there because it was next to the signature. It could have been up here. just something for me of, being able to see everything clearly. If that's not your thing, then, that's fine. Okay. This one is a good example. That's probably pretty close to the edge and will go off. So, if you just did something like that, you won't overwrite anything. All right, so you remember that when we loaded our DocuSign forms into the documents, they were all forms and we filled them all out. Where I want to go now is to the seller's disclosure, which was a PDF. Okay, what you'll have here is the initials have not been assigned on this form because it was a PDF. So you're going to have to do this similar to dot loop. So on the initials, if you go over to the left-hand side, you will see standard fields, and there are, quite a few of them. The first three are the most used. Then you get down into name, email, company title, then text boxes and check boxes. So what we want to do first is add an initial. Now, when you bring this over, it's a pretty large box. Suggestion would be to resize this so it's kind of small. Reposition it. Okay, it's in yellow, so it's to the right person. So when we go to bring over the second one, instead of being that large box, it remembers what we did over here. And it will do that through the rest of the form. Now, it showed that both of these are yellow, so we know that the second initial's not right. Over on the right-hand side is the recipients with a pull-down menu. And here's the color coding again. So it says that it's checked on Mickey. We want to switch it to Minnie, and it now changes to blue. So that's what you would do down through the entire form. Okay. So what you would do on a signature is you would just bring the signature box over. Again, I don't think you'd have to worry about size. The date signed. Now, this one's going to run into the other signature, so this can go somewhere up above. I do these all at once, so they all come over in the same color. Then I have to go back here to the second buyer, pull down the recipient, and change the color for the signature and the date signed. Okay. All right, so you've got all of your forms done. Any of the PDFs that you did, you've added signatures or initials. Everything is done as best that you know that it is. What you want to do at this point is now send it to the buyers. Either at the top or at the bottom is the send button. You would hit send. Hopefully here it says sending, and then it will say hopefully it went. Okay, successfully sent. So what it does is it prepares an envelope that is now stated as needs my signature. If you click on this, it'll open up to each of the buyers, their signing order, and what they need to do. I think that you can use this, just to help you out. A lot of times you'll get a client that says, well, I didn't get it, the email, or I got the email and I sent it back. This is a way that you can tell, that you either have it or you don't, and, need to take steps to, find out what happened. So what we're going to do at this point is I'm going to show you what the buyer is looking at. I was using emails that I have, so I'm just going to, a lot of times in dot loop, we never could explain what the buyer was looking at and what they had to do. So let me go to the first person who is Mickey. Okay. Mickey's going to get an email that says that I have, via DocuSign, have sent them some documents. So they will click on it. They will hit review documents. All right, DocuSign opens up. Either at the top in the black banner, you've got a cookies question. It could be up there, or it could be down here in this area. Probably best if they click on OK. If they start with continue, it'll take them to the very first form. These are all in a linear form of everything they've got to initial or sign. In the middle of the screen, they've got a print button. They can download it. They can make it smaller. They can make it bigger. If they wanted to print it and go over it, they can do that. Or they can just scroll and go through the documents. So this is your opportunity to be discussing this before they sign it. So, or before they finish signing it. Okay, so what they would do is they would hit the start button. All right, it takes them to the very first place that they need to do something. Then it's going to bring up, and I'd have these saved. Let's just going to say adopt new. This is the same thing as in .loop, where it made a signature and an initial for them. If you're on an iPhone, it will come up to the draw tab. And in this box will be blank. This allows them to draw their own signature or write their own signature. Unless it's very legible and readable, I would suggest if you can not have them do that, have them go to the select style. At least this is readable, that you can tell who signed the form. And I know it's not, their signature necessarily, but with electronic signatures, that doesn't matter. But at least admins and people in the company can read what you've got on the form. So all they do is hit adopt. And now all they do is click through each one of the places that they need to initial or sign. Okay, that's it. Took them all of what, 6 seconds? So then they would hit finish. All right, so, all right, then we're going to go to the next email. I'm wondering if it's hung up.
So Brad, it doesn't go to it automatically after the first person signed?
It does. It has to come back.
Yeah.
And I don't see it. It hasn't come back yet.
So where it says waiting, it should have gone to them, Minnie, right?
As soon as Mickey sent it back.
Yep.
All right, so
then it shows up in Minnie's email. She opens and signs.
okay, so what you do here is if you've been waiting a while and Mickey says, I've done it, you go to the reload or refresh button. Okay, and it says for Mickey, he's completed it. It says signed and it gives the date and the time. So when that came back to you as the agent, the second email would have gone to Minnie. So Okay, and there it is. So same kind of process. All right, the cookies, she continues, she starts, it goes to the first one, she's going to adopt the signature, and she's going to click through. Okay, when she's done, she just clicks finish. Now, this will come up. It says save a copy of your document. They've already got a copy. They don't necessarily have one that's signed. But what this really is doing is they want to open up a free DocuSign account. So you might want to just say no, thank you. And then it tells you that you're done. If you refresh the screen, it says Minnie's now signed. And then if the last person is me, okay. Now I should only have one document in here. All right. While we're on this screen and you can see this, see the date stamp. It goes 5/18/2020, 1:56 p.m. EDT. That's as long as that is. So if that was up here, that would write over Minnie's signature. So that was why I was suggesting that you move those date boxes. Okay, so I'm done. No, thank you. And I refresh the screen. Okay, that hasn't come. It just came through. All right. So now what it says is you've got all three people that has signed it, gives you date and time. What you also will have, oops, wrong one. Is when you go to your documents, all I did was go to the back button and you go to your documents. You now have the very first one is the certification from DocuSign. If you click on it and open it, it gives you all the information about the envelope, who the originator was. It gives you all the signatures that were used, the date, sent, viewed, signed, and all the information connected with DocuSign. It also, if you click on any of these other tabs, that'll open up. What the whole thing of it is this is 5 pages. So if anybody was in the real estate business back when a lot of people were using DocuSign, you had to include this with your transaction. So we're not having you include this at all. It's just there for information. When you open a document and you're in the one particular document and you want to close out, on the right-hand side, there'll be a big X. That's probably the only place that I would use the X because it won't delete anything. Okay, now what you've got is, remember when we started in documents, we started with a form that had the blue form symbol on it. Well, now what you've noticed is we've got a green checkbox, but it says signed on it. So it duplicated all of the forms that we originally started with signed copies of everything. And this is what we're going to use for compliance, the signed copies, not the working form documents. So let's say that you haven't, let's say that this has now gone to the seller and come back. You're still working on your device. You haven't closed your device down. You should have the original command documents tab open. If you click on that, remember I said, remember this screen, we're going to come back here. We just left DocuSign and we're now in command. All right. Now let's say that you did close down your computer and you came in. So let me just close it down. Oops, sorry. Shouldn't have done that. Okay. I'm going to have to go back to the beginning. Hold on a second. All right, so now say it's tomorrow morning. You come in, you open up command, you log in as normal. All right, and you open up the headings. You go to opportunities, okay? And we were doing a buyer. So when I click on that and I go to the buyer timeline, you'll see, and I left it in cultivate, but here's a number 1. So I know that that's the buyer. Here's the address and these are the buyers. So you just click on it and open it. And this is the details tab. You go to the documents tab. Okay, and here's that blank screen that I told you to remember. All right, where we are at this point is we are now, we need to submit for compliance. So this is matching up our signed documents with the documents that we had, that we will have in this screen right here. Now, we're not using the heading consultation. You've just gotten a sale transaction signed by all the parties involved. It's now considered what we are going to say is under contract. So when you click under contract, 45 documents now appear on this screen. All right. What you're going to do is you're going to match up each one of these headings with the forms and the documents that you used in your transaction. They're usually in an order that we think as the more useful, more used forms than some of the lesser used forms. So what we want to start with is there's a button here in blue that says attach multiple files. So when you click on that, we're going to add files from DocuSign. All right, so all we need to do here is, we know we had a CIS. We click in the drop-down box and we have to find the CIS. Now, CIS, they put in its full title. So you're going to find 2 of them, but this is just the PDF copy. This is the signed copy. So all you do is click on that. It adds it. We had the ABA for buyers. I forget where they are. There's the ABA for buyers. That's not the signed one, this one is. The agreement of sale, the signed copy. Now, don't get caught by not looking at the title that you think you're just going to go right down the list, because here's an agreement of sale, but for unimproved land. So this is for a land sale, so you're not going to have this. Okay, we had a seller's disclosure. Now, you're going to have in a sale, you're going to have a radon, you're going to have a lead. You know, you might have some of these other forms. I didn't do them just simply because we only downloaded the one from MLS. So the buyer agency agreement, the additional commission, and I think that was it. Okay, so once you've got all of the forms matched up, you hit attach, and what you'll see is them load over here next to the document title, but they'll be in blue. And this is information so this can be sent. So this was all added in as you matched each one of them up. What you're going to see underneath the title is the word required. You're going to see optional, and you're going to see conditionally required. Anything that is labeled required, you need to submit it for compliance. Other or optional, you do not have to submit for compliance. This isn't any different than in .loop. It's only the standard documents that usually have signatures on them. Conditionally required, you may be submitting that depending on what the nature of the addendum is. So, but most all of these are the required. All right, so you've now loaded in everything that you want to be reviewed by admin. This blue button, submit to MC, you just click it. It wants to know if you're sure. And what happens is the button is now grayed out and says submitted. So this is now gone to admin for review, just like in .loop. Now let's say that it's 9 o'clock tonight and you submitted this, and 7 o'clock tomorrow morning you remembered, oh, I forgot to include one of the forms. If you add that form at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, it will come in just like the others did. But what'll happen is this grayed out submitted button will not turn back to submit to MC. But in the background, that's already been included in the list. It's already part of your transaction. So long as somebody in admin has not opened this and started to look at it, you can add forms even though you're not submitting it per se to the MC. All right. Dawn, are you on?
Yep, I'm looking at it now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, admin is now looking at it. If you remember in .loop, the selections for the documents were, I think they were approved, missing items, missing signatures, returned for whatever. And Dawn or admin would send you a message, congratulations on the sale. Everything is good except you forgot the initials on the seller's disclosure or the no signature on the ABA. And she would send you an email. Okay, we're not going to be getting emails any longer. So are you done, Dawn?
Yep.
Okay, so you now want to find out what's going on with admin. If you go to the reload or refresh button, what you're now going to see beside each one of your documents is you're going to see whether or not they've been approved or whether they've been rejected. That's the only two choices that we have in command. Now you're going to say, well, the approves are good, but the rejected, how am I going to know what was rejected? If you come over to this next icon and hover over it, it'll tell you what's missing. Missing initials in both of those, the rest of them were approved. she made an approved over here, which that's not right, but normally she doesn't put that. That would say rejected over here. So you've now gotten this back. You've got some corrections to make, depending on what they are. What I would suggest before you go to the next step in the process, and that's offers and commissions, is that you correct each document and have the entire transaction approved. Normally, I said this says rejected in red, plus the rejected by the documents. This is no different than in dot loop. If the commission comes in to the office and wants to look at this, I don't think the office wants to be showing them, unapproved under contracts with rejected documents. So the next steps are offers and commissions. So before you move on, just a suggestion to get your transaction fully approved. All right, once you've got it all approved, where you're now going to is the replacement for green sheets. So it's 2 steps. Offers is the first one. It's relatively short. Commissions, now the tab here is not highlighted. You can't do commissions until you do offers. Now, offers has nothing to do with compliance. It's only you looking at it. So when you click on offers, it wants you to add a new offer. You can entitle it whatever you want. Nikki's first offer, and you want to create an offer. All right. There are 4 steps: details, parties, terms, and agent analysis. Similar to green sheets, it's just filling out a few buttons in each one. Now, for some reason, I know the offer date was today, but the close date would not be in 3 days. So it's not picking up the close date correctly. And I don't remember if we picked anything at all. So just make sure you've got the right figures in here, even though it's filled in for you. Again, it wants the address of the property, so you just start typing until it comes up. All right, that's all that's added in all that's needed in step 1. And then we go to parties. It brought over the buyer and the email address. Again, none of these other fields are required because it doesn't have the red asterisk. It brought over the agent information. Now, if you didn't fill out the listing agent or the seller information the first time, here it needs it. So I'm just going to put my name just as the seller. It's not going to make any difference. Okay, so you've got a name in there, and it wants an agent in there. So I'm going to use April, and that's all we need in there. So that section is filled out. We go to terms. All right, now, this is not a calculator, so you have to do this by hand. And you would think that if you put in the sales price first, you could work backwards, but it makes you start over here on the left. So the cash, and this is reference to the financing. This is not the down payment. I'm sorry, not the earnest money deposit. So in the example we're doing, it's a $300,000 sale, and they're putting 20% down. So it's $60,000 in cash. They're going to finance $240,000, and now the sales price pops in. So we know we're right there. The earnest money deposit is $5,000. Now, option fee. This is one of those things that this is not a familiar term to us. We probably will not be using that unless you've got an option fee in your REOs. So just remember what that is referencing. Now, termination option. As far as I know, we do not have this or use this. This would be similar to a home equity line of credit, where after you sign the documents, you've got 3 days to withdraw. We do not have that. So you're probably not going to have a termination option in there. Now, seller's cost. We've got some wording in here that we're trying to get some advice on what a residential service contract is. We think that it might mean something like the homeowner's warranty, if they're buying that for the buyers, or if there were maybe some HVAC contract or something, that's probably what this is, but we're trying to get an explanation of that. So where the seller contribution, this is probably what we are most used to. And this is the seller contributing to the buyer's closing costs. So, okay, so that's all the screens that are on here. We go to agent analysis. Now, this is for your use only, or for you and the buyers. It's a pro, a con, and a summary. So I guess if, if Mickey and Minnie were looking at 2 different houses, that might be the information in here. I hope they're happy with the one that they purchased because they're under contract. But so, you can just make some notes in here if you need to. If not, there's nothing that needs to be done. So we've now worked our way through the 4 parts of making the offer. We're done. We hit save. And what's going to come up is all of the information about the transaction. Here's the address, here's the buyers, here's the seller, the agent, and then here's a linear explanation of what's going on in this transaction. So all you need to do is make sure that the numbers are right. They're in the right place. If they're not, you can hit the reject button and it will take you back so you can edit what you need to do. But let's say that everything is fine. This accept button is your accepting that this is filled out correctly and that it is correct. So it has nothing to do with compliance. It's just you yourself making sure that you've started the transaction numbers correctly. So I'm going to go hit accept, and then watch on the commissions tab. You're going to see that it's now going to become active. So that's how you can get, that's the only way to get commissions active. So we've now finished with offers. We hit the commissions tab. And this is actually what we would consider the green sheets in .loop or in the past. I really like this because it shows there's a box over here with the summary of where all the monies in this transaction are going. It shows in the grayed areas my information about the commission and fees and all of that. So I'm going to do 2 scenarios. One, I'm going to do that I'm the only agent in this transaction. So just to verify, we got the right sales price, the commission. That is the amount of commission that's coming on my side, on the seller buying side. Now in command, a unit is considered 1 for each a listing and a sale. It's not 100, not 10. It's just a unit per transaction. So you're going to get a red line up here when there's something wrong with the information. So when you go to correct it, the red line usually goes away. All right, so I had to fill in the contract date. The close date came over. All right, now what it does is this, from here through the bottom of the page, is all about my information. It puts my name in. I have 1 unit count and the total commission is $9,000. Now, what it's doing is it has the gross commission, then it is now going to start taking out whatever needs to come out of that transaction. So the first thing's the royalty, then the company commission. What it's going to show over here in the circle is what percentage you have paid in cumulatively to your royalty on each. So as you go to each transaction, this percentage keeps going up, as the same with the company dollar. So what it's going to tell you when you're doing that particular transaction is how close you are to capping, if that's where you are. So I think this is a little different because we've not had this exactly before to know, when we're submitting a transaction, a new sale or a listing, where we actually are. So, all right, so deductions. Here are the 3 contributions that you can make to CARES Kids or the Bold Scholarship. You just, type in any amount that you want. And what it does is it now starts taking it out of deductions, and then it just changed the amounts of money. All right, now, this just basically deals with the KW and the E&O. If we have to add an item, at the bottom of the sheet is a button that says add item. So let's say I'm an agent that does not charge a buyer or a seller the additional commission. Let's just say the $50 additional commission. So what I've got to tell this screen is that needs to come out of my commission. So when you hit add an item, this is going to walk you through some steps. Is what is it going to be? Is it going to be a bonus? Did I get a bonus from a builder, for instance? Is it going to be a concession? Is it going to be a deduction? Is it a referral? So with the $50, it's going to be a deduction. And then it's going to want you to fill out the information. And I'm going to put in just 250 as, I'm going to put that in just as an example. It's going to want to know, where that's going to go from. I don't have the real numbers in here. The description is the additional KW commission, pay to KW. The address is 18334 Coastal Highway. It wants the phone number. It doesn't need an email. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that. What it's now going to do is it added it in right here with the amount, and it also added it over here as other deductions. So the amounts are going down or up or accumulating, so you get to see what the summary is. Okay, so that's all that I needed for this transaction. What you would do at this point is, the numbers are right, everything looks good. You're going to hit the blue submit button. I'm not going to do that because where this goes at this point, it goes to Becky Hurd in Lewis, who's going to review this information, and she's going to make the DA, the disbursement authorization. In that screen where we were for compliance and we had all of the forms in the middle of the screen, once she does the DA will be at the bottom of that screen. That's where that gets added. You can click on it, you can open it, you can print it. And remember, the DA is being done at the beginning of the transaction. So let's say that during the transaction, you had something occur. Say, for instance, the sales price got reduced, or the home inspection, the buyers, the sellers and the agents are all contributing. So what you would have to do is, when you entered this today that it's not right, you need to call Becky and need to tell her what the changes are. She will update the DA. Then it'll come back to you. You'll review it before you send that out to any of the attorneys or whoever's doing the settlement. So that's maybe a little bit different than what we did with green sheets, but it's pretty much the same. So, okay. The second part of this that I wanted to show you is I'm not the only agent in this transaction. Let's say that I went on vacation, and while I was gone, somebody did the home inspection and somebody handled something else, and say they moved up settlement. So what we had decided to do is that we were going to split the commission. It was going to be a 60-40 commission. All right, we know that the sales price, the commission, and the amount is right. But the unit count is not going to be right for me because it's not a full unit for me. It's only 0.6. So beside the numbers are a minus button and a plus button. All you do is hit that and it will take the number down to whatever you need it to be. It's recalculating, so here comes your red bar telling you that you're not quite right yet. Now, the plus and the minus only counts down by the tenths. If you needed to, let's say you decided on 65-35, if you just put the cursor by the 6 or whatever numbers there, you can add the additional digit. So we're just going to leave it at 6/10. But what it didn't do is it didn't change the commission amount. So you've got to do that by hand. So we know that's 5,400. It's still telling us that we don't equal 1 yet because all of this information is about me only. So when we were here before, we had the add item at the bottom. We now have down here an add agent button with a new grayed out area. So we would click on the add new agent. We would say who it is. And as you start typing, it's going to come up. It comes up quick because we're all loaded in to the system. So now what it does is it now creates a new section for April with all of her finances and all the information for her. But what it didn't do is it didn't put in what the unit count was for April. So what we do is we go plus until we get to where the amount is, or the correct unit count. Now again, it didn't put the commission in, so 4/10 is 3,600. Okay, so now it's got April's information in here. And here you'll see April has been using command for real, and she submitted transactions. So this is what yours is going to look like. In her royalty, she is 48% paid through her amount that's due. Her company dollar, she's 72% paid through. So, you know, each transaction you do, this will show you where you are. Okay, now there is one.
Can I ask you a question? What if there's a referral to be paid? You do the same thing?
That was on add an item.
That's the add item. Okay.
Yeah, there was a thing in there about inside referral or outside referral.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Now the one thing that we didn't do is back here on the additional commission. And I only put 250. I could have put 50 in there. It wouldn't have made any difference. But we didn't necessarily decide whether or not I was going to take it all or April was going to take it all. So, you know, let's just say that we had decided that it was going to be split the way our commission went. So 60% of the 250, is 150, I think. So all you did is you went in and corrected that figure, but then you've got to add it into April because April doesn't have it in here already. So it's all this screen is in the add items is making sure that you get everything in that affects the commission dollars. So then if you go to your summary page, you'll now see that April's been added and what our commissions are, how much is going to the office, how much is coming to the company, and then any other deductions that went in there. So, you know, it's a good summary to be looking at just so you kind of know what's going on. Okay, so, you know, once this would be done, you'd submit it and it would go through its thing and it would come back to you as the DA. That is it on doing a transaction from the beginning to compliance to submitting what we're now calling offers and commissions instead of green sheets. So a lot of information. You will all get, if you haven't already got it, you'll get the PowerPoint. I will send that out today. There's a new one being done that's adding some updates to some of the sections and adding some new sections. So we hope to have that done by next week. Hope to have it done this week, but we've got to make sure that it works. So other than that, what I would suggest is anybody that can get into this, make up names. If you've got 2 email addresses, send it back and forth to yourself if you want. And you can see how the process works. So before I stop sharing the screen, let me give you one other thing. Up here in the black bar is a bell. Normally, it does not have a red asterisk in it. So the red asterisk, if you click on it, will tell you what has gone on and what it should say. It should say more than logged in. It should have said I submitted this for review, and it doesn't. Okay, here's where you would have gotten a notification that your compliance request has been approved. That's this one. So when you see a red asterisk in your bell, you know you've got some messages coming through. When you're done with it, you can just hit dismiss or dismiss. You can do it individually, or you can hit dismiss all and they'll all go away. So are there any questions?
Brad, this is Ellie.
Yep.
How do you delete those extra forms in the room? The unsigned documents.
You don't.
How do you delete an extra room if you've done a few of them for practice?
Okay. I can get back. You go to your opportunities dashboard. Okay. This was the one that we just did, right? You click on that.
Shouldn't that be beyond cultivate? Shouldn't that be under contract now?
Well, I didn't move it.
Okay.
We just did it and I didn't do anything with it.
Okay.
Okay. Now the address is covering it up, but see the 3 dots?
Oh, yes.
You click on that and there's archive.
Okay, fine. So you're not really doing it in DocuSign. You're doing it in Command.
This you are, yeah.
No, I want to delete rooms in Command.
Oh,
I mean in DocuSign. I want to delete
DocuSign.
rooms.
I'm not sure I can give you an answer right off the top of my head. Oh, okay. You mean in this screen?
Yes. In that screen, you have extra pieces of paper.
Right. Okay. In the left-hand corner, you'll see a circle.
Yes.
Click on that. And then up in the middle here, archive.
Okay. All right.
Now, I think you can archive when you archive this, I think all of this goes away. Try going to your opportunities first
Oh, and
and
getting rid of it
archiving it there, and then go back to DocuSign and see if they're here. We've never done that, so I don't.
Well, like you have a rooms tab up top. If you refresh your rooms tab, all your rooms are going to come up. Not there, over the word messages, right next to the address. It's highlighted. Go
Right
to
here,
the right, go up now, go up,
to rooms,
straight up, not too far. Yeah,
to rooms.
hit that, all your little rooms come up. And I've got rooms I've been practicing with that I want to get rid of.
Well, okay, you mean here?
Yeah. Right. That's what I came across.
Oh, I just went to it. I thought when, well,
Yeah, couldn't find it. That's the spot.
I know it's here.
See, you have rooms you should delete too. Look at that.
Well, I supposedly have got 780.
Don't you want to get rid of a couple?
Well, Dawn knows they're all Minnie and Mickey or Donald and Daisy.
Yeah, I know. But still.
Yes, there is a way, and we'll have to work on this because Rich Meadows and I took about an hour and a half to find it. It's not.
Okay.
It's not readily.
And if you go to the little search thing right next to KW or the question mark, that doesn't help you there?
I don't know if it does or not.
Okay. All right. Well, if you've got 780, I'm not going to complain about my extra.
Yeah. I know you can do it in opportunities. I don't really ever go here. But I'm just doing the instruction side. So I'll write that down because we did find it. It's just difficult to find.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And Brad, if you were doing both sides of the transaction, you'd have to go through this whole thing a second time?
Yep. Yep. You have to have a buyer opportunity and a listing opportunity. Because you would have anyway. Most likely. Unless it was a list and sell.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, a one-time showing.
Yeah, but in .loop, you just have to add people to your to the same loop.
Where you did a sale folder and a listing folder. So this is the same principle.
Okay.
Now, if you're doing a one-time showing and you're not getting paid by the seller, you wouldn't do anything with the seller side. If you were a listing agent and you sold your own listing, that would be two transactions.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right. So
Okay.
you'd have a listing already in there, and then you'd have to do one for the sale. And the reason it's kept separate is it's this timeline right here. If you notice over here on the right-hand side, it's your combined GCI or prudential GCI. So if you lumped the buyer and the seller all in the buyers, this number is not going to be right. Same way as lumping it all together, your numbers aren't going to be right. And that's the whole thing with command, is to separate things out so you can keep track. Down at the bottom is also a ratio of how you're doing your business. you know, whether you're a listing agent or a selling agent. So, you know, you kind of would want your numbers, I think, to be as accurate as you could be.
But when you, but when you create the room with the agreement of sale, then you can just can you copy that over to the buyer side, the
Yep.
signed document?
Yep, you can. You can put it in your computer and go
So you have
through
to download it first.
Yeah, download it and then upload it that way.
Okay.
Because you do it from your documents instead of, because you're not doing it, if you got a contract from another agent, you wouldn't be doing it in DocuSign forms anyway, right? You would have scanned it.
Right, but like in .loop, for example, when you did it yourself, you could basically copy it to the same loop into the buyer side, you know, the signed copy into the
Yeah.
buyer side, to the opposite side, and then get it signed by the seller or the, you know.
Well, you'd scan this into your documents and upload it from your computer.
Okay.
And then you'd work through, if you needed signatures, you'd work through it that way.
Yeah. Maybe it'll get easier, but it seems a lot more intensive than .loop.
It's the same, it's almost the same thing.
I haven't experienced that.
Okay. Well then, and because I don't exactly know what you're saying, but then I'm going to say, well, I wonder whether you were doing it right in .loop.
.loop was a lot easier. That's in my opinion. But it may just be because it's new to me.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
This shouldn't take probably to just get the documents and to get them out for signature. Shouldn't take any more than a half hour to hour and a half, depending on how many documents you got. I mean, filling out the agreement of sale and all the other documents is no different than what you do in .loop. Same amount of time, same everything. So, you know, the time is going to come of just going from the document sections to the envelope section. So, all right. Any other questions at this point? All right. Look at.
Thank you.
Whose dog? Christopher. Oh, Chris, what a dog. Look at that. Great picture.
Thank you, Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
All right.
Bye.
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 Everybody have a good evening.
You as well.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.